Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Bet the Birds Week 10 bye-week edition with Eliot, Shorr-Parks, and Maniac Malloy. That's me. Eliot, we're on a bye this week.
Yeah.
The Birds took care of business against Dallas. Your prediction of beating Dallas is going to equate to the Eagles winning, not just getting to, winning the Super Bowl. Are you still feeling good about that right now? How do you feel?
Well, look, I'll say this. I opened the PARX app this morning, as I always do, and was disappointed not to see that they're Super Bowl favorites after my my proclamation. But that just means they're still good value. And yeah, I feel even better than I did before that Dallas game. Dallas played well. Dallas showed up. Dak played well. The defense played well. CeeDee Lamb played well. Didn't matter. The Eagles still won. And I think what it backed up for me was nobody is coming into Lincoln Financial Field and beating the Eagles in the playoffs. So if they do get that 1 seed, which I think they are going to, nobody will beat them. And if they get to the Super Bowl, I believe they'll win it this time. You can look at Detroit and say maybe they'll be the 1 seed, but the Eagles can go to Detroit and win that game if that's what it takes. So I understand there's a bit of fear after watching the Eagles lose the Super Bowl last year. Don't have fear. Believe in this team. They are going to win the Super Bowl.
Clear eyes, full heart, no fear. That's what Eliot
Exactly right. Best TV show of all time.
Now, the Eagles are the favorite to clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC at -150. You mentioned the Lions. I'm a better. You're a better.
Yes.
-150 is a little too chalky for me.
Oh, of course.
Plus 300, Lions to get the number 1 seed. I mean, I know you probably can't do it, but if you had to choose a team other than the Eagles to clinch that 1 seed in the NFC, who would it be?
Yeah, it's the Detroit Lions. The Lions only have 2 losses right now, and you look at the rest of their schedule, the toughest game remaining is probably Dallas, the second to last week, and then the Chargers this week. But if they get through the Chargers, and I think they're probably going to win the game, you're looking at a Lions team that might only have 3 losses. They play Chicago, they play Green Bay, they play Minnesota. Their division is going to prop them up in the chances of winning it. So I agree with you. I almost never bet if it's minus odds. It's like, where's the joy in that? So I almost always do plus odds. Detroit plus 300. And again, I think the Eagles would go to Detroit and win that game. I think it'd be tough. I'm not undermining the Lions by any means, but I do believe that if you had to pick a team other than the Eagles to be the 1 seed, I think it'll be Detroit.
First playoff game potentially since 1991 for the Lions. I do not want to go to Ford Field at all. I do not want to go there, but I do think they can take care of business. Would be a really wild game at Ford Field.
And it's a tough place to play. I've been to games in Detroit with the Eagles have played at. It's loud. Those fans are crazy. And all the pressure would be on the Eagles. The Lions would have no pressure on them, even though they would be home, even though it would be 1 game for the Super Bowl. They are playing with house money at that point. The Eagles would be the one with all the pressure. So I think they would win in Detroit. But yeah, that is I'd rather go to San Francisco than Detroit, put it that way.
Well, we are at week 10, a little bit past the halfway point, I would say. MVP odds. Jalen Hurts is in the conversation. Mahomes, Lamar, Tua, Joey Burr. MVP odds. Who do you got on the betPARX app to win the NFL MVP this season?
Yeah, I think because the Eagles were so good last year and because Hurts probably deserved MVP last year, there's a bit of a hesitation to say it should be Jalen Hurts. But it should be Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is the MVP of this league. The Eagles have the most wins in the NFL. He's the quarterback of the team. He's top 5 or 6 in almost every passing stat. Second overall in total touchdowns. And we've seen it. We saw him, help or carry them to a win against Dallas by making big plays from the pocket in that game. We saw him throw for like almost 400 yards against Washington. Like we've seen him put up really big games when the defense has struggled and when the offense needs him. They're not a good running team this year. They've been moving the ball through the air and by Jalen Hurts' arm. So you look at the other candidates. I understand the Lamar Jackson discussion. Lamar Jackson's thrown 9 touchdowns this year and has a defense that is carrying that team. And he's not played as well as Jalen. Joe Burrow got off to an 0-2 start and is just now picking up. Patrick Mahomes is always going to be in that discussion. This game up 2 Mondays from now will decide it and maybe potentially with the MVP. But ultimately, Jalen plays the most important position on the best team with the best record. He's MVP. And again, just like the Eagles Super Bowl odds, I think that Jalen MVP odds, I believe, are plus 350 or something like that as of now. Good odds because I believe he is MVP of the league. And I think if they go and they beat Kansas City or if they get that 1 seed, he's going to get a lot of those votes he should have got last year.
Plus 350, I like the odds. He would have won it last year had he not gotten hurt, right? Mm-hmm. Is that safe to say?
I think so.
I
I mean, it's a little 2017-ish with Carson with the, would have won it if not hurt. But I think he was in a better position to win it. And look, last year when he was out, you saw why he was MVP. They went 0-2 and they looked awful against the Saints. So yeah, I think if he doesn't get hurt last year, he probably wins it. And I think this year he's in good position to win the one he should have won last year.
I'm picking up on just a little bit of another flaming hot take. The MVP could be decided next Monday night. Is that true?
Potentially. And I think, look, in the eyes of voters, it might get decided next Monday. Prime time, Mahomes versus Hurts. If Hurts goes into Kansas City and beats Patrick Mahomes, there will be no excuse not to give him the MVP. None. Zip. Zero. He'll have the best record in the NFL. He will have just beaten the guy that just won the Super Bowl. So I think the MVP could be on the line. On the flip side, if Mahomes outplays him and they win that game, then I think you're really into a stretch where Jalen's going to have to outplay Mahomes by quite a bit. So yeah, I think Monday night, outside of being a potential Super Bowl preview, could be where the MVP is decided.
Monday Night Football, the MVP Bowl. I'm calling it right now. It's
I
the
love
MVP
it. I might use that
Monday
on
Night
Twitter.
Football.
I might use that.
I think we might have to get that up there as a special on the betPARX app. All right, Week 10. I love this. I love the bye week because we can really settle in and just watch some football. No anxiety, no work. Take a week off, sit down, watch Red Zone, lock in, watch all the primetime games. What is your stone cold lock for Week 10 in the NFL?
Yeah, so it'll be nice to have Sunday just to watch football. I will say, they say gambling on the game makes it worth watching. A lot of bad games in Week 10. The Eagles not playing certainly lowered the talent level of the teams playing this Sunday. But my stone cold lock, I would be shocked if they lost this game, and I think they'll probably cover by way more than this. I like the Seahawks -6 versus Washington. Seahawks coming off of a really bad loss last week. They're back at home now. Washington traveling across the country to go play Seattle. And I think Seattle is, if not the second best team in the NFC, they're certainly in that discussion. They're leading their division right now. I think they have reason to believe that they could hold on, especially with San Francisco going to Jacksonville. Washington sold off all their good players. I think you're going to see them start to really tank. So I believe Seattle -6. I even think if you want to do those alternate lines, you could take them up to 9 or 10. I think that's going to be a clear win for Seattle.
A clear win for the Seattle Seahawks. My colleague Mark Feldman is going to love that one. That's his pick of the week too. Now, I got to ask you, you say there's a lot of stink bowls, as I would describe them this week. There's a couple stinkers on the card. You got to be able to find an underdog in that pile there. Let me get an underdog money line pick of the week on the betPARX app. Who you got, Eliot?
So I almost put this for my stone cold lock, but I love them as an underdog. The Jacksonville Jaguars to beat the San Francisco 49ers. Again, Niners traveling across the country. I know they're coming off three straight losses, but that just means they're not good. It doesn't mean they're going to win. They might just be losers. Kyle Shanahan is a loser. You see that in the fourth quarter. When he is losing a game in the fourth quarter, he does not win. Doug Peterson, we know here in Philadelphia, he's a winner. He wins big games, but he also gets up for big games. And this is a big game. So I think sometimes in the NFL, we overthink things. The matchups, the offense. Jacksonville is a better head coach and quarterback, point blank, period. And I will always take the better head coach and quarterback in a matchup. So Jacksonville underdog at home. We all know Doug is an underdog, has been known to win a big game or two. So I'm going to go with Jacksonville as my underdog pick of the week.
Hungry dogs run faster. I think that's the
so
saying.
I hear.
I really, really like that pick. And I'm also starting to get a little nervous because that's my underdog pick of the week. So you're right on par with the Mark and the Maniac this
Love
week.
it.
So makes me a little bit nervous. Now, prop bets. We talk about stone cold locks on the spread. We got an underdog. Who's a player that's going off this week on the betPARX app? Give me a player prop that I can hammer.
So I'm going to stick with Jacksonville, and I'm going to go with the over on Trevor Lawrence passing yards. I think this 49ers defense is very overrated. You saw that their defensive coordinator is moving from the booth down to the sideline. That's the first sign of panic. You don't do that just because you want to enjoy the Jacksonville weather. You do that because you are having issues on the defensive side of the ball. I think Trevor Lawrence is probably underrated at this point. I know early in the year he was viewed as a top 5 guy. I think he's fallen off a little bit, but he's still 6-2. He has his team in front of that division. And I think the Niners defense is ripe for the taking, especially with those underrated weapons that Jacksonville has. So I'm going to go the Trevor Lawrence over on passing yards. In big games, Doug likes to throw the ball. Eagles have seen that. So I believe Trevor Lawrence is getting a lot of passing attempts. So I would take the over on his passing yards.
I love me some Trevor Lawrence, a little sunshine action. Sunshine.
Exactly.
Great movie.
I love it. We got to remember the Titans reference and Friday Night Lights reference. That's how you know it's a good football pod.
Now I'm putting you on the spot. What's your favorite football movie? Come on.
Well, I just said it. It's Remember the Titans. It's a classic. It's tons of great quotes, amazing actors in it. And like when I was younger, I used to watch that thing all the time. So I love that one. But I will say, if you don't go movie, the Friday Night Lights TV show is my favorite show of all time. Just the first season to the last. It's unbelievable. So those are my go-to. Maybe I'll just watch that on Sunday as I watch my bets fall apart by 4:00.
I got one for you. If you ever want a really true documentary style, go to YouTube and put in The Last Game. All right. You can watch it, stream it to your TV. The Last Game. It's the story of CB West football and their run to the state championship game. Mike Pettin Sr. versus Mike Pettin Jr. You got to watch it. If you haven't seen it, it's a must watch for any football out there. Me
and my wife are putting the Christmas tree up tonight, so I'll put that on while we're doing that.
I'm going to hold you to that. All right. You're talking about stink bowls, right? Tough games this week, but we're going to bet them. We're going to watch them. You can't stay away from it. My last 2 questions for you. Give me an over and an under on the betPARX app for the total this week.
So with my under, which I obviously hate betting, but as you said, we're going to sprinkle some things around this weekend because the games are not great. I'm going to go under on Browns and Ravens. I think 2 obviously great defenses, a divisional game. This game just feels like it's going to be an ugly one. The over-under is 38, which is admittedly low, but the Ravens can't really pass the ball. They have the second fewest passing attempts in the NFL this year. The Browns are hard to run on, and I think this is just going to be a low-scoring divisional game. So I'll go under on Browns-Ravens. And then for my over, I am going to go Bengals versus real quick. I wrote this down wrong. It is Browns versus Ravens, right?
That is correct.
Okay, yes.
Good, so and then you got
Bengals. I wrote the opponent twice. Oh, Bengals-Texans.
Bengals-Texans.
Yes. Sorry, my bad. Bengals-Texans over 47. 2 of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. I think CJ Stroud is already in that top 5 conversation with what he's done down there in Houston. And I think Joe Burrow obviously has been red hot as of late. So I think there's going to be a lot of points in that game. Bengals have a good defense, but I think CJ Stroud's a big-time player, and he'll show up, and he will make big plays in that game. So my under, Browns versus Ravens. My over, Bengals versus Texans.
I love it, man. What are the plans for you this week on the bye? We got to hear it. You have any weddings to go to? I mean, you're always talking
no, for once. Yeah, for once I will not be at a wedding. Feels like that season is over. Look, you're going to learn this about me, especially as December comes. Christmas is my favorite time of the year. I am unabashedly not afraid to admit we might decorate the house this weekend. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving? Why would you make the best season of the year any shorter? So I think the Christmas tree goes up tonight. We'll probably, watch a Christmas movie or 2 after we watch that documentary, and just enjoy the weekend off and watch football.
Well, Eliot, enjoy. Another week of Bet the Birds is in the books, where we help the public decide, for this week, how to really make some money on the betPARX app. It's been a pleasure talking to you again, as always. And Eliot, we'll see you next week as we get ratcheted up for the Super Bowl revenge game. Eagles, Chiefs. I know you're going to come correct for that one and have some really hot takes for us.
Can't wait. So, Eliot,
enjoy the festive weekend, and you'll get some good weather to throw up the decorations. So good luck, and I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Talk to you next time, man.